Hey guys, Buckeye Bar Guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show.
Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Tonight's date is Thursday, November 16th, 2023. Some big news coming up out of good old Ann Arbor, so we will hit that tonight. First, we'll start off with the Michigan State game, and then we will finish up the show with the Minnesota game and going over some score predictions for the week as the regular season is almost over as we are chugging along into Thanksgiving week and, of course, the big one next weekend, which is getting bigger by the day with everything that's going on. But we'll hit that in a minute. Michigan State. So the Buckeyes looked very, very good starting off the game. It was nice to see them, get a nice fast start. They got Marv involved. They got Trey involved. McCord looked really good. Defense looked good. I mean, everything was pretty much hitting on all cylinders. I mean, Stover had some nice big catches, and kind of like how we talked about. It was funny in the show last week. We both said, get going early and then kind of, get people out of the game in the second half, and that's kind of like how they did it. And so, as obviously the eye is on the big price next weekend, so it was efficient. It was like business-like, and then they moved on pretty quick into the second half.
Yeah, I mean, if there anything that I just, if I did have something to nitpick, run defense did look a little leaky at different points, but I'm not going to dwell too much on that. I mean, just a lot of moving pieces still, and I mean, Michigan State didn't even get within Ohio State's 34-yard line, so it didn't look that bad. If they didn't get anything past the 34, I think that's something that you can live with, even if there were a couple long runs on the day. I mean, they averaged 3.2 yards per carry, so it was nothing crazy. They just, a couple guys got some decent ones, but Ohio State's run game looked fine. They had 177 on the ground for 5.5 yards per carry, so not bad. McCord had very an efficient day, over 300 yards, had 2 touchdowns to Marv, 1 touchdown to Cade Stover, all pretty good balls. I mean, the second one to Marv was just pretty much a pitch and catch, but outside, I mean, but he looked more in rhythm, I think, than at really any point this season. So encouraging. I know you always got to take into consideration who they played, but even then it was just a lot more quicker, like a lot of in rhythm throws. And the one that Cade, I can't remember the quarter or the time. I'm sure you'll remember what I'm talking about, though. It was like the play broke down and it was a shovel pass over the shoulder to Cade, and he had a big gain on it, and just like showing a little bit of playmaking there for McCord, which is something that, I think we felt he's needed to show this year as well. So all in all, I think it was a really good game. I mean, defense played well. Young guys look good. Can't complain about it.
No. Yeah, I definitely liked how they did it. Yeah, and you can obviously say, well, it is Michigan State and stuff like that, but what did we see from McCord? His passes were on time. They hit the people that they needed to hit, and I mean, he didn't make any bad throws that I can think of, like just like glaring bad throws. And he's had a couple of those throughout the year in almost every game where it's just like, where's he throwing it there? I mean, actually, probably his worst series, and they did drive the ball, was probably that first series in the second half where he missed Marv a couple times down in the end zone where they could have got another touchdown. And I mean, that's just being nitpicky. I mean, I think that he really looked good, I thought. And yeah, you can say, well, yeah, Michigan State and stuff like that, but you could be playing a bad team and then still look subpar. I mean, it's better to look really good against a bad team than look bad against a bad team. And then it's like, then you're like, God, what's coming up here in a couple weeks? So it gives you some confidence, I think. And,
Yeah.
I think as long as everybody continues to play well around him and, and they can continue to get some nice scheming to get Marv open. I mean, we talked about this. I mean, that counter run where they do the orbit motion behind it is like, they literally are almost coming up with a new play every week that's coming off of it. It's now kind of interesting to see where that will go. So definitely interested in
I'm
to
still
see
calling a
that.
passing touchdown for a skill player.
I could see Marv with that. They handed it off to Marv in that formation this week. I think I kind of mentioned, you said, well, I'd like to, and I think we both are kind of on the same thought process. G. Scott, like, he went one way and then turned around to do a block on that, so he faked one way and then turned around to lead block for Marv. Could he release? Could him or Stover, could they release on that? And either McCord fake the handoff and throw it to him, or, does Marv throw it to him? I mean,
That's the
it could
next
be,
step of this play. Marv.
it could be interesting. And that play was really cool. They pulled the guards with Trey, and then they came back the other way, and Marv had a lead blocker with G. So I mean, it was well designed. I mean, it was one of the probably the. I mean, they've had some decent design plays this year. I mean, Ryan Day is who he is, but I would say was the most creative play from all aspects the whole season. Like, I really liked it. Like, it was, and like that, he is starting to feel like, kind of like that coach that he's been. And, he kind of goes through these periods where, you think about Notre Dame, but, maybe he's being a little too conservative. But I think early in the season, he knew what he had. Kyle was new, and he was trying to not overwhelm him and try to, continue to build up his confidence. And they've kind of the last couple of weeks, and, Kyle's had some, he had some inconsistencies against, Wisconsin and stuff, and Penn State, but it's like, yeah, Rutgers. I knew there was another game in there. I couldn't think of what it was, but it's like he's, we've always seen him this year where he seems like he's really come out lights out in the second half. But it was nice to see him do it in the first half. And this team starts fast with that defense. Like, if they can get up a couple scores on people, it's going to be really hard to beat them.
Yeah, agreed. Definitely agree with that. Yeah, so I don't really got any more to take away from the game. I felt pretty good about it. I mean, it was kind of a sleepy game, but it was good that McCord got going quick. I shouldn't say sleepy. It got boring in the second half against a bad team because Day could have put up 70 if he wanted to, but he went out put up 3 in the second half, which is fine. I mean, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, I saw some. I mean, I did see some Buckeye fans kind of nitpicky on that one on Twitter, that maybe he should have let the the young kids kind of go at it a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, you can argue that point. Like, I think he knows what's in front of him. He's got Michigan and hopefully a playoff run. And I think it's about and I think they're probably going to try it again on Saturday. Let's get up fast on these guys, and then let's coast in the second half. And I'm fine with that. Like,
health is the biggest thing right now.
Yeah, like, we got some banged up players. So yeah, getting some people back is important, and not adding any more to those injuries.
Right.
And so I think that's the most important thing. And, I mean, does it really matter that when all your starters are out that, they're just running the ball? No, it's fine. I mean, trust me, getting into the games, that was good things for Lincoln. It was good for Jelani. It was good for some of the guys on the defensive side. You don't know, you might need one of these guys might have to step up for something. And it was nice to see him, to be able to get some playing time in there. I did want to mention one guy on the defense that I was really impressed with, and that was Malik Hartford. I mean, I think that he he really balled out, and that's a good sign because we don't. I mean, it seems like it's pretty. That Latham's not going to be back for the regular season, possibly for the rest of the year. I mean, based everything off what we heard from Day this week. So I would have to imagine that, even if Proctor's back, and it seems like Proctor is going to be back this week, you still want to have a third safety, and, that's Malik. So it's like, it's nice to see him play the most snaps in the game, and he got a lot of good run in there, and good for him. He looked pretty good, and he was a little shaky early in the game, but I mean he had some big stops where he came up and made some big plays. He almost had a interception. Was that this week or last week? I can't remember now. That I think it was this past game, right? That where he
yeah.
So
because what the game before was Rutgers, right?
yeah, and he came in the second half. Yeah, it wasn't Rutgers, but yeah, he had he had some very nice plays and stuff like that, and that's good because, like you said, you don't know if we're gonna need him here in a couple weeks next weekend, and so it's good to get some of that rust off of him from not playing a lot from the beginning of the season. So I was really happy to watch how he performed.
Yeah, absolutely.
All righty, so we'll close the book on Michigan State.
Unless you want to touch on special team snafus.
I don't want to because
we'll talk too long about that.
Yeah, I mean
it's just more of the same, whatever.
We've made our points clear, and I think that fake punt. I mean, I think we were all saying we were all yelling it here,
I feel like the only person alive that didn't have, and they were in a safe defense too. So I don't understand how that was so easy, but because I feel like everyone alive knew that was going to be a fake punt,
Yeah.
We were saying it. I think they said it over the TV. I mean, from what I gathered from the Buckeye beat writers, they all knew it was coming. So I don't know. I don't know how that happens. I mean, that was one of the easiest converted fake punts where you knew a fake punt was coming that I had ever seen.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't cost them a game. I think that it's coming. I don't think Ryan Day is going to do it in season, especially towards the end of the year. He's definitely not doing it now. Hopefully it just doesn't cost him a game here. And I think the big thing with that is that I'm ready to move on, and it's nothing against Parker. I just think that it's a lot for him just to do one job. And I know Day says, well, he helps out in some other spots, and that's fine. But to have a full-time special teams assistant that's making that much money, and Ryan Day has said it multiple times, there's communication issues. Well, who's supposed to be communicating that? It's your coach. So there's something thrown off there that, I mean, you can blame the players, but at the end of the day, the coach has to take the responsibility. It's Ryan Day's job. I mean, it doesn't matter if the players all play bad. At the end of the day, Ryan Day has responsibility for the whole team. Well, each one of the position coaches have responsibility for their position. And when you have a guy on your staff that, from what everybody says, that, he's very good on the phones with the linebackers and stuff like that, and James Laurinaitis, and he's taken on a lot of responsibilities since Knowles is the defensive coordinator. I want to see what James Laurinaitis looks like, as a full-time. And I think that's what makes this decision. Even though I'm ready to make the decision, I think that makes the decision even easier. Keegan has done special teams. Eliano's done special teams. I'm sure James could do special teams. They could special teams. There's very few teams in the country that has a full-time special teams coach. Urban never did. Urban was the special teams coach, and Kerry helped him out. So it was I mean, I don't know.
All right, moving on.
All right, so word came down earlier today that even though all the chest thumping and everything else that was going on up north, they are ready for their day in court tomorrow, as they were going to get the injunction to lift the suspension and blah, 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 all this stuff. And they dropped their lawsuit today. And not only did they drop their lawsuit, but they accepted the 3-game suspension. So Jim Harbaugh will not be on the sidelines against Ohio State next week. And according to Michigan is, when you read the Michigan press release, they came to an agreement, the Big Ten's going to drop their investigation and, they'll accept the 3-game suspension. But when you read the Big Ten statement is that as of now, they levied out the punishment that they're going to levy out, and nothing more is going to come to it, unless more stuff comes out of the NCAA investigation, which, they're still assisting the NCAA. They're still working with Michigan to assist the NCAA, and basically a lot of their fan base, it pretty much feels like, was led on by a lot of their insiders that this was going to be a big fight. And, it basically is that Jim Harbaugh, unless they make the playoffs or make the Big Ten title game, he is pretty much done for the regular season. He's still going to be coaching throughout the week and stuff like that. It's still his game plan, but, yep, here we are.
Felt like they've been led on. Man, everything from Michigan and their insiders has been window dressing this entire time. And it's been so obvious to see. Anytime that they say anything positive, or when this is finally going to go Michigan's way, or we got evidence on these guys, some bad news happens to Michigan later that night. This whole thing is just it's been a scam for them to try to I don't know if it's just the optics or if it's just to keep the fan base confident, encouraged. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, we'll see more as it develops. I don't think this is the end of it. I mean, coaches don't just delete Twitter accounts a month before signing day. So I mean that's interesting. Maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe that's his thing. Maybe they told all the coaches do what you have to do. I don't know, but it feels weird that time, this time of year that it's the DB coach, co-defensive coordinator, was it Steve Clinkscale? He's the one that deleted, which
he just outright deletes his Twitter. And like you said, this is 2023. This isn't 2006. All the recruits are online, and literally signing day is right around the corner. I mean, it's going to be here in 4 weeks, and they are one of their better, recruiters. So there's a lot of speculation. What did he know? What did he not know? I'm not going to throw a bunch of stuff out there. To me, it kind of feels like he got fired, and just and then it's like this whole thing then with Harbaugh comes down right afterwards, and it's now it doesn't seem like a lot of people are talking about that anymore. It's what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
I don't, and some of their insiders, which been beating their chest and all these boards, message boards, and all this stuff for the last how many weeks, they all started getting information earlier today that things are not looking good. Things are not looking good. Things are not looking good. And then this stuff starts dropping, and it's okay. And I think me and you, we talked about it a little bit ago. I mean, I think they wanted a quick decision last weekend, that, they thought they were going to get this injunction right away. Maybe he'd have to miss Penn State, but, he was going to get an injunction. But the Big Ten, they challenged it. They wanted a hearing. They got a lawyer that, is a member of the Bar Association of the state of Michigan, and that they could hear cases in Michigan. And so they were ready to go to fight with it. And it just kind of seems like to me, as the week went on, and then you start hearing that they're kind of working out a deal that was started coming out a little bit yesterday. And I was just at first I just figured, okay, well, he'll take the 2-game suspension. He'll be back for next week. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize the deal was going to be you're going to get nothing out of this. You're going to accept the original suspension, and and then we'll let the NCAA deal with you. I didn't realize that was the deal, because that doesn't seem like a winning deal to me.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan really, them and their fans really dressed up that the crap outcome that was, because they're all praising that the investigation's over, and it's no, one, no, two, you just agreed, all you did was agree to the terms of the original suspension. There was no compromise. There wasn't it ended up being a 2-game. Nope. They just said, yep, we'll take what you gave us. Yeah. So to create this much noise and just do that. I mean, and I told you like go before, we're not going to wildly speculate or anything like that, but there's got to be something. Like they showed them something. They showed them something. It was like, listen, man, this can get real bad real quick. And they're like, yep, we'll take the 3 games.
Yeah, I think probably. I don't know how much more they showed them. I mean, obviously, it seemed like when you read the Big Ten,
or it was a
report from
bluff
last-
the entire time.
when the Big Ten, when you read the Big Ten report, the Big Ten obviously had stuff. The NCAA shared stuff with it, so they had stuff. I don't know. I think they were probably nervous, and they probably got good legal advice, like, hey, the NCAA doesn't have subpoena power, but if we go to court and something comes out in court, well, the NCAA now can use that. And if it's something the NCAA doesn't know that just comes out of court, well, once it comes out, there's no taking backs. Like you can't right. Well, you can't use that in the NCAA. Yeah, they can. Once it's public knowledge, it's out there and it can be used. So like
Connor Stallions would perjure himself in a heartbeat, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not even necessarily him. I mean, what if you don't know. Just things come out in discovery, and when lawyers are involved and stuff, like at that point, yeah, cards have to start being shown. And if you're going to go have some sort of hearing, well, what do you got? Like the judge would literally ask, here's what Michigan is saying, that they are having irreparable harm and this needs to be lifted. And then the Big Ten would well, here's the information that we have, the reason why we suspended. And maybe the Big Ten thinks that them and the NCAA have everything exactly the same, but maybe the Big Ten has that one piece of information that the NCAA doesn't even know about, that, one of the schools handed over to the Big Ten, thinking that maybe it was handed over to the NCAA. It wasn't. And then out of nowhere, it was like, oh, the NCAA's, well, we didn't know that. And that's now even worse. And, I mean, it was pretty much in the Big Ten statement to Michigan that, everything that has been known and can be proven. So I just think Michigan probably finally decided, after all the chest beating and stuff like that, hey, this is a legal proceeding. We're going to have a hearing, and, information could come out in said hearing. And,
right.
The Big Ten might ask, the judge might want, or the lawyers might be like, hey, if Jim Harbaugh needs a restraining order, he needs to take the stand of some sort and, answer some questions. And does he really want to be under oath? Because guess what? If he answers a question and then 6 months from now, the NCAA comes out and it's proven in there that he knew something and he said he didn't know anything, well, guess what? You just perjured yourself. And then at that point, that is actually a crime. And they could come back on you and file a crime against you. So it's like, I just think it's a lot of different things that probably Michigan's like, well, let's hope we win out with these guys. We'll get Harbaugh back for the postseason if we can win out. And, most likely he's probably gone next year anyway. So let's make the best out of this situation. But,
right. And that's what this all is. I mean, it's them just trying to get past the finish line, which I don't blame them. I mean, no, if this happened to Ohio State, I mean, I can't believe our fan base is actually, has more of a moral compass than Michigan's does. But I mean, half of our fan base would probably be saying Ryan Day deserves to be suspended or fired right now. And they did the same thing to Urban. They did the same thing to Trussell.
Yeah, I remember plenty of people, that were on their stuff with even there was a lot of fans that are like, hey, we need to wait to hear more information. And there was a lot of fans like, no, it was under his watch and, he should be gone in both situations. And
guys like you and me, though, if we made it past the finish line as champions and then they took it back next year, we wouldn't care. We would say we won it on the field. So, I mean, I get where their fan base is coming from and I get what they're trying to do, but I don't know. Like I've said this from the beginning and I've gone back and forth with, Michigan fans that think that, it's a big nothing burger or whatever. Like the NCAA just they're lazy, man. They don't just want to create issues because they don't want to do the investigation. Like they don't care. Like this would have never gotten to this point unless there was something there. Like the Big Ten wouldn't go after Michigan if there was nothing there. Like that's the thing. Like, and they don't understand it. They just think that, oh, lone wolf, whatever, that bought his own tickets and did it himself and wasn't impressed. Like, even that in itself is lack of institutional control. And maybe it's just a sum of all the parts that, like, you've had too much crap go on the last 2 years. Like, this is just the last straw where, you're donezo after this. And maybe the Big Ten feels the same way, but I just feel, it doesn't get here if there's not something substantial.
Yeah. And, and the fact that it seems like that all the schools are behind the commissioner on this one. And, we talked about this. I can't remember we talked about it last week, but we definitely have talked about it in private. For the small schools in this conference, is the Purdue, the Indianas, and stuff like that, the possibility you could, if, like, say, there was nothing hanging over Michigan at all. Ohio State or Michigan, it doesn't matter who wins. Whoever wins next week is undefeated, but it's a really good game. There is still that possibility that second school is in. Now, if Michigan loses next week, me and you have kind of speculated. I think at that point, the committee is going to hammer them. I think they are going to make sure they are behind all the one-loss teams. Then that way, there is just no
drama.
They will always have a one-loss team that they can put into that playoff over Michigan. And I just think that will probably be the safest approach, and that's the approach they're going to take. None of these small schools or the non-money schools in this conference, the Purdues, the Indianas, they're not going to turn down. If Michigan and Ohio State both make the playoffs, that's almost $20 million in extra revenue for the conference that gets split up equally. So the fact that they're willing to turn down money just shows how aggrieved they are at this.
And it stays in the athletic departments, right?
Yeah, it's for the athletic department.
So yeah, there's no way in hell. Like, and I love it because they're all like, oh, the entire Big Ten conspiring against us because we're winners and they're tired of losing. Like, no conference believes that, man. They want that money for their athletic department.
Yeah,
like,
especially
that's free money for Purdue. Like,
and I don't know if the other conferences do it, but I know in the Big Ten, all the postseason bowl money is put together in one pot and it's divvied out equally amongst everybody. So
I think it is.
Like Ohio State, literally, and Michigan and those schools, they make a lot of money. How much money do you think Ohio State makes when they go to the playoffs that gets, 3-9 Purdue? They absolutely love it. That is extra free money on top of the free money that they get from the freaking the television deal. So it's like, we want you all in. And make as many as possible, and make money, and hopefully one of you guys make the damn title game.
Right.
They made a boatload of cash because of those 2 playoff games last year, and I wish they probably the rest of the teams in the conference wish one of them would have won to make me more money. But,
yeah, absolutely. So I don't think it gets to this point if there's nothing there. But that's just me, and I might have definitive statements about it, but I don't have anything concrete to fall off. It just feels like that they would not blow this much out of proportion if there was nothing there.
Yeah. And it was just funny on the co-defensive court, whatever is going on with that.
That's just weird.
And we both talked about this. Like, I think Michigan kind of had 2 choices in this whole matter. It's like, and I think the choice that the Big Ten gave them was probably the better choice for Michigan. It's like, Harbaugh can coach during the week, but he gets 3 games suspension. Like, they could have been like, Harbaugh's fine, but your coordinators are suspended for the rest of the year. And because, we can see it is on film. Like, this guy, they can't say that they don't know who he is. Like,
right.
Some random dudes like, oh, they're running right. Yeah. Like, okay, you obviously
on the first play of the game.
Yeah. You're obviously that we can prove that they know something about it. At least, this is not a court of law. And that's what Michigan. Well, this is not a court of law. Again, it's not a court of law on both sides of it. Like, the Big Ten does. All the Big Ten has to do is watch video, being like, well, we can probably conclusively. There's enough evidence there that we say they probably know who that guy is.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
but we'll let it play out. If we get more news, we'll talk about it as it keeps going on.
Yeah. All righty, Minnesota.
Okay.
Meanie soda.
Well, I don't think this is going to be a particularly difficult game. I mean, I hope things aren't leaky or anything that it looks worse than, on Ohio State's part than what it should, because Minnesota's 5-5. I think anybody that can actually throw the ball has been able to throw the ball on them. They gave up points to Purdue last week. Michigan, of course, PJ Fleck, I think, said that was the best college team he's ever coached against or something at the beginning of the year. So they're not very good. I believe their quarterback's only thrown for 200 yards twice this year. So I don't see them challenging us much. So what I would like to see, of course, being able, confidently stopping the run, just having good run defense, keep the passing game, looking good again, look sharp again for the first half, and then get the starters out as quickly as you can, as quickly as you feel comfortable, and just hit on the running game, keep evolving the run game. I think, those are the main things I want. I know I'm not going too much into it. I just don't see it being much of a game. I mean, I think they do have a good cornerback, so that might be a challenge for Marv, but usually Marv ends up winning that as long as, teams aren't doing a soft bracket double or soft zone on him.
I like just the kind of like just the thought process, because we've talked about similar like things like this before. Now, obviously, Rutgers and Minnesota, they can't throw like Michigan can, and in Wisconsin they got a good running game. Does it kind of help you in your mind? Does it help Ohio State's defense some that they've kind of played some better running teams coming down the stretch before going into the Michigan game? Because like we've talked in the past, like I have never liked like when you play like a Maryland or a Purdue and a couple of these kind of spread teams prior to playing a Michigan or Penn State. And it's like, I kind of want it to be like, it's just kind of like a physicality you kind of got to gear yourself up to before playing somebody. And we might be completely off base come the end of next weekend, but I think, Minnesota's going to run the ball a lot on them this week. Rutgers ran the ball on them last. And I think part of me thinks that, like, even though, Rutgers got a lot of yards and stuff, but you're also dealing with a lot of injuries. So it's like, if you get some guys back healthy for next week, that maybe this doesn't necessarily hurt them, that, they are playing some run heavy teams that, and you got some good shutdown corners. So maybe Knowles kind of feels some confidence going into, with the kind of defense approach next week, been like, okay, we've seen some of this stuff. We've seen, I'm not going to say they're one for one the same as Michigan, because they're not, but maybe we've seen some similarities in there that I know I got my shutdown corners. I know they can play on some islands this year that maybe we couldn't have last year. So like I can deal with the physicality because we've had some games this last few weeks with it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, you haven't always looked great against the run in the stretch and against Notre Dame. So, I mean, that could be worrisome, but it's a lot of data to collect, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot of stuff you've continuously been working on, and you can really put it into, practice next week, even though that's not a lot of time if it's still an issue. So, I mean, there's that side of it, but I agree with you. Like playing, your last half of the season being Penn State, Rutgers, Wisconsin, Braylon Allen did get hurt, but they run the ball. And they had a quarterback that, could scramble. Again, we didn't do great against it, but it was something to see, put on tape so we could practice it. Of course, Gavin Wimsatt from Rutgers, he's a guy that can run. Again, didn't do great stopping it, but it's something that you see, you can practice now. Michigan State ran a little bit. So yeah, these guys are going to run. And if there's any team, like you said, this is not Michigan. So I am in no way saying, if you can stop this run game, you're going to be able to stop Michigan's. If there's any team that's going to use the resource and put extra linemen out there, though, it's probably going to be Minnesota. So you could see some things that are going to be similar to what you're going to see the next week. So I agree with you completely.
I just like that, like you said, they have data points now. So it's things that like Knowles has seen. So like he can, okay, this could be worrisome if Michigan does this against us. And, Michigan's seeing the same thing. So like he can kind of plan, like, I'm going to assume Michigan's going to try to come at us at this spot because Minnesota had some success there, and Rutgers had some success there. So he can kind of scheme to it a little bit more. I think that, and I mean, this stuff with coaches. I mean, these are all chess matches. I mean, and obviously Knowles, that's right up his alley. So I just think it's better to have the data points, even if they've looked shaky in spots, than not have them. So at least if you played a bunch of spread teams coming down the stretch, it's like, then you don't know. And it's like,
what value does that give you if a team just tries to throw on you and your secondary doesn't let them do anything? Like you have no idea what's coming up the middle then. So, I mean, this at least gives you an idea of ways to plan around if things do start going sideways against Michigan on the run game. But even then with the running defense, and not to get into this too long, and I know there's been shaky parts, but nothing's been sustained this year, and it's not you haven't played great competition. So I'm not going to say that, any one of these teams could do it. Notre Dame might have started a little too late, or they might have gave up on it a little too early, depending on, what you want to say about that. But even Notre Dame, theirs didn't start until the second half. And a lot of that, I don't think they actually wore down Ohio State. I think Ohio State was just in bad spots, So because Ohio State, when they came out and they made plays when they had to in that last drive, and I know Notre Dame dropped back to throw the ball, their own stupidity, but it wasn't like our guys were just totally gassed, So, I mean, it hasn't been sustained this year against them, and people can cherry pick stats and highlights all they want, but fact remains, Ohio State's still undefeated. Their defense is playing great. They are good against the run. They're great against the pass. And I don't know if Michigan, we're not jumping to that game yet, but I don't know if you can just run the ball 50 times on Ohio State and not be able to do anything in the air. But to go back, it
shows how
data points are good, and I think this is going to be helpful.
It shows how excited we are for tomorrow's game.
I know.
On Saturday's game, because
I know you don't want to skip over it. You fall into traps sometimes. I mean, the only time I can really remember outside of 11, of course, was 2007 when we both lost the weekend before.
Yeah.
So I think both teams they're going to handle business on Saturday, I would think. But of course, everyone's anxious and amped up already for the 25th, and especially with all this stuff going on in Ann Arbor. I mean, that's going to be a chippy, just violent game.
Yeah, no, it's going to be. 1 versus 2 was nuts in 2006, but it was a different type of nuts. And then it kind of sombers out the closer you get to the game because of Bo's death. Yeah. And obviously we'll get a lot more into this next week, but this is going to be the game. This is probably, for as chippy as sometimes this game can get, this is going to probably be the most hated. It's like I hope there's not a full blown brawl, but it kind of feels like that one could break out of this game.
They got to keep their guys cool because they get a little they like to muck stuff up to try to get personal fouls on the other side when they're at home. So gotta be careful with that stuff. But all right, I think I've said enough about Minnesota though. What would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I just think again, I just do what you did last week. I think. Let's gear up. I'd like to see Knowles gear up to go against the run. I don't know. I don't know if I want Tommy to play though, but it's like, let's get some big bodies in there. Maybe get some of your bigger D tackles. I know Hall's a little hurt, but let's use this is a scrimmage for next week's offense.
Yeah, exactly. These guys can't throw that well.
This is a sparring partner. The sparring partner is not as good as the guy you're getting ready to fight. But, he's supposed to give you looks of what the guy you are supposed to be fighting. So, Minnesota is the sparring partner for Michigan. So let's use it like that, and offensively get up on these guys quick, just like you did last week.
Yeah.
And get the guys out. I don't want to see our guys in there that long in the second half. I'm sorry. You should be able to score 5 touchdowns in the first half on these guys, and you should be able to ride that away to the end of the game. And that's A-okay with me. I do not care if this team scores 28, 35 points in the first half and then wins the game, 31, 38, 42 to whatever. It doesn't matter to me at that point. Next week is what matters, and what's coming after next week if you win. It's it's time to gear up to go win a championship. And so like I'm fine treating these games like they are preseason games. Like I'm sorry, like go beat them, get out in front of them, and then stay healthy.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, so I mean, you want to talk about some games around the country, or
Yeah, let's hit some of just a couple of the. I know we were what Georgia, Tennessee. Let's hit a couple of the big games, and then we'll go Big Ten. So, pick a couple of the decent big games, and then we'll do Big Ten and call it a night.
okay? I mean, there's not really many good games because this is, what's known. This is kind of like the calm before the storm for a lot of teams. So, um, Louisville's ranked 10th. They're going to Miami this weekend. Miami is ranked, or I'm not ranked at all, but Miami is a 1-point favorite in the game. Um, I don't know. I haven't really been too impressed with Miami. I think Louisville's actually been pretty for real this year. So I think Louisville's going to win this game outright.
I think they're going to win too. I think they're
Miami home field means nothing.
yeah, and I think is Louisville automatically clinch the ACC title game, or
I think they need this one to clinch.
Okay, so they want to go there, and that'll be if they could upset Florida State, that's a big win for them, and they could get a nice New Year's Six bowl, and so that's like I think I like what Brom's doing there. That could be an interesting team going forward in the ACC. So I say Louisville beats Miami.
Utah ranked 22nd goes to Arizona ranked 17th. Arizona's a 1-point favorite. Utah's not really the team. I don't know. I know they're coming off a tough loss. They're not the team though. I think that lets like their emotions get the best of them and have down games like that. So I do think that they're going to pull the upright or outright win against Arizona as well. So I got 2 road outrights already.
Yeah, I'll say Arizona. I've been fairly impressed with how Arizona's looked this year. They've given some we think about the game they gave to Washington and stuff like that. So I'll say Arizona wins.
All right. Number 1, Georgia heads to Tennessee. Tennessee does have usually a pretty good home field advantage. Georgia's which only sounds crazy, but they're only a 10-point favorite in this game. I don't think Tennessee's, I don't know. I don't think they're that good. I think Georgia's going to cover this pretty easily, actually.
It's kind of like, I mean, it's a little different than Ohio State, but it's kind of feeling like them and Ohio State. It's like they're both turning it up like at the right time. So I think the last couple of weeks what we saw of Georgia, that is a couple of weeks ago I was like, I think Alabama could easily win the SEC, and I'm starting to think that might be a pretty big time battle because I definitely like how Georgia's played the last few weeks, and I think they're starting to gear up for their playoff run.
Yeah, and they know what's in front of them for that playoff run too. So there's a big baddie going to wait for them in Atlanta. North Carolina heads to Death Valley to play Clemson. North Carolina is ranked 20th. Clemson's a 7.5-point favorite. I got no read on Clemson. They're 6th and 4th for the year. Carolina's 8 and 2. I'm going to say Clemson wins, but they don't cover the 7.5.
Yeah, I'm saying Carolina wins. I think they're just slightly better. I'm surprised it's 7.5. I mean, I don't think Death Valley is that big of a,
This is not a good Clemson team.
Yeah, I don't get that one. I mean, it's if you say like Clemson's a 3 or 4 point favorite, I'd be like, okay, I understand that, but like they're home but it's just not a good Clemson team, and I think North Carolina wins.
Kansas State goes to Kansas. 7:00 game. Kansas State's 21st. Kansas is 25. Both are 7 and 3. Kansas State is a 9.5-point favorite on the road. Whatever that matters in state. I think Kansas State will win, but I think it's going to be, within the 9.5.
Yeah, I'll go Kansas State on this one. But again, I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a nice little rivalry game. Might actually watch a little bit of this one Saturday night. So
I think I will. Oregon State host Washington. So 10-0, number 5 Washington, 8 and 2 Oregon State. Oregon State's a 1-point favorite. I'm going to say Oregon State wins.
Like I've been going back and forth with this one because I really think I'm waiting for Washington to trip up one of these games, and because they just have had some issues, but
So they keep finding ways. It's almost like they've turned the corner with their offense too. Their offense got stagnant and then it started to like ramp back up now.
Yeah. I think Washington will win, but I do think that either this week, next week, or the championship game, they're in a threat to lose one of those games. I think somebody's going to get them, but I'll go with Washington this week.
I'm throwing this one out there because it's interesting. Texas is number 7. It's a night game, 8 p.m. Iowa State's unranked. They're 6-4. Texas is a 7.5 point favorite. Texas did just lose their starting running back though. And their quarterback situation, I think Quinn's back, but it's been kind of iffy. Any chance for an upset of names?
No, but I think that I would take the Cyclones in this game if I was betting the spread. I think it'll be close, but they played better than what they started off as down here. There was some talk that, this might be Matt Campbell's, last year there, that, maybe, they were going, was a time to go in a different direction. I think he probably, has saved that, they realized that they probably not going to find a better coach than him. No, I think it'll be a tough game. Iowa State always plays tough. It's, it must be the Iowa thing. It's so I think it'll be close, but I think Texas will pull it out.
All right, let's go to the Big Ten. All right, nooner, Michigan, Maryland. Michigan they're on the road. They're a 19-point favorite. I don't know. I feel like, Maryland could do more offensively than what Penn State did. So I think that'll be interesting. Of course, Maryland doesn't have anywhere near the defense Penn State did. So I think Michigan probably should be all handled, but it was a close game last year. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is within the 19, but I'm going to go ahead and say Michigan wins and covers.
I think Michigan is going to win big in this game. I think that this is the game they're going to rally. And I think that's going to be the false rally. I think it's going to be like everybody's going to be like, they're going to be fine. Ohio State's this, Ohio State's that, and then the buzzsaws next weekend. I just think I think they'll handle Maryland. I think they're going to want to come out after this and just hit somebody like, there's no tomorrow. And so, and I think it'll give them some false confidence that, they've beat Ohio State before, but, I think Ohio State's coming in with the same thought processes, it's prover point now for next week. But I think Michigan covers easily.
Rutgers goes to Happy Valley at 12. Penn State's a 20.5 point favorite.
I don't get that one. I won't lie.
I don't get it either, but Rutgers, I don't know if either team's getting to 20 points in this game. I really don't. I could see this be like a 10-3 Penn State win. Rutgers has a good defense. The only thing that scares me about this game is Penn State is going to have the ball a ton because Rutgers' offense isn't very good.
Yeah, but Rutgers can run the ball. And
Michigan can run the ball.
And Michigan just ran all over them. So,
and Ohio State, honestly, and I know people are going, well, look at the numbers. Ohio State, if running backs were different, Ohio State probably could have ran much better against Penn State.
Yeah.
But that's, that's whatever. That's here. That's gone. But yeah, I guess you're right. I guess there is a chance that Rutgers could win on Penn State.
I think Penn State wins, but I think it's going to be 17-10, 14.
I don't think either team gets the 20 in this.
I just think it's going to be a really close game. And, they both have good defenses. And I think Penn State's susceptible to the running game. And the first half against Ohio State, they were very susceptible. It's just Mayan Williams, and obviously you don't know how hurt he really was. So
they started calling some predictable, over and over the same run play. And Mayan was trying to make something that was being blitzed and stopped. And
after you saw what Michigan did to them, if Trey would have been playing in that game, there's no doubt in my mind that Trey would have did. Maybe they wouldn't have ran for 300 something yards like Michigan did, because that's just not Ohio State style.
Something.
Whatever it was. It felt like it was at that point in the second half. It felt like But
They were running for like 3 yards a clip.
I know they just kept on. I mean, I'm not taking any of that game. It's nothing like it wasn't the dominant performance that they had last year against Penn State. But
Right.
like I think if Trey was in that game, I think Trey runs for $150 on them. The way that Mayan was having holes in the first half, I think that they would have ran probably all over him fairly easily.
I mean, if Trey played in that game, he got that speed option that they ran with Mayan. He probably would have housed that ball. So, yeah, there was definitely room for a lot more rushing yards for Ohio State in that game.
Yeah,
right.
I'll say Penn State barely wins, but it'll be a close one.
I agree. And that's always when Penn State puts up like 50 points too, is when I say they can't score. So won't be surprised if that happens. Michigan State, Indiana. Indiana's a 3.5 point favorite. They're both really bad. Teams have a habit of not playing their best after playing Ohio State though. So I'm going to say Indiana wins this game, covers the 3.5.
Yeah, I'll say that too. God, Big Ten football. Whew.
I know. Purdue travels to Northwestern.
Another one.
Yep, Purdue's a 3-point favorite. I think Northwestern's going to win outright at home.
Yeah, they've. I like how they have circled.
That would make the bowl eligible.
I like how they've circled the wagons for this coach, and he got the gig. He's no longer the interim, so congratulations, and we might be playing him in Wrigley next year. Who knows?
Right. Excuse me. Illinois goes to Iowa at 3:30. Iowa's a 3-point favorite. If it wasn't in Kinnick, I would say Illinois because that's just how the West works. But I think Iowa will win this game.
Yeah, me too.
And they cover the 3.
They'll win 13-6.
Yeah, that sounds about right. 7:30 on NBC. Oof. Nebraska, Wisconsin, battle of 5 and 5s. Wisconsin's home. They're a 5.5 favorite, so a lot of 5s in this game. They just lost at home, so I'm gonna say that Wisconsin will win this one, but they don't cover.
I think
for no good reason because it's the Big Ten West.
I think this is the game where Rule puts them as bowl eligible. So Nebraska wins.
All right. Then at 4:00 on the Big Ten Network in Columbus, Ohio, the number 2 Buckeyes 10-0 host the Minnesota Golden Gophers at 5 and 5. Ohio State is a 27.5 point favorite. I think they cover it. I have kind of similar to last week. I'm going to say 42. No, I'm sorry. I had 41-6 for this game, which I believe that was actually maybe your prediction last week. So
I don't remember.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going with this one, though. I think they cover. I think it's going to be an easy game. I don't think Minnesota has much of an offense. I mean, there could always be some garbage time touchdowns or something, but I do think Ohio State can win this pretty easily, pretty handedly, and 41-6 is where I'm going.
Yeah, I think you actually had. You had 42 last week. I might actually go to the 42. I think they're going to get 6 scoring opportunities again, and they're going to score those 6. They all might be in the first half. Who knows? And then they're going to just ease their way through it. But I think this is going to be their first shutout of the year. So 42-0.
That would keep them. That would keep them under 100 points given up this year if they did that. Still,
I think. I don't see Minnesota be able to move the ball that well on them. I think they will shut down Minnesota's run, and the big one's next week. So let's get ready for it. But Ohio State. So say Ohio State big.
All right. Well, I'm good. Anything else you want to touch?
I'm good too.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
OH.
IO. Go Buckeyes.
Go Buckeyes.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added, and please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.